ideally, you need to bring an old referee to an old ground, and there's none older grounds, that is, than here at Sandygate Road, which is the home of Hallam Football Club. This ground is the oldest football ground in the world. Keith Hackett is not quite the oldest referee in the world.
Yeah, I was worried about
but he is
the way you
senior.
were going. Yeah.
But you are quite senior, and we're here for a reason, because, Keith, this ground's got terrific memories for you early in your career.
Yeah, throughout my career, I would come to this ground. It was always a physical test. It is for the players, it is for the referee. And then, you know, I mean, look at the facilities we've got here. They've done a tremendous job, this club.
Wasn't always like this, though, was it?
No, you used to come in the dressing room as a single bath, and you were always like looked after, you know, regarded as not someone important, but someone that's going to participate in a game. And I've got a love for this ground because this is where I learned my craft. I can remember coming. I'd had an international game midweek. I think it was in East Germany. I'd been through Checkpoint Charlie, all those sort of things, where it's a pretty lonely sort of experience. Because you go through Checkpoint Charlie, the guy meets you at the other end and says, football's a remarkable thing. You're coming into East Germany, the wall was up there, and the President of the United States, who made his big speech, is not allowed through. And I thought I'd got a weekend off. And then I got a call from Ernest Kangley, who was the Secretary of the FA. He ruled football with a rod of iron, but he gave it direction. And supported referees tremendously. You know, if you gave a red card, you didn't have red cards then. You sent a player off, then there was an inquiry, and eventually you get the right decision. So I think everybody had a respect for him. Anyhow, this particular arrival back from East Germany, and I thought I was going to have a restful weekend, and I get this call from Ernest Kangley: "You're going to referee at Hallam Football Club." And I've gone, great. Who are the linesmen? No linesman, Mr. Hackett. It's not the first team. So I arrived, and I sort of get changed, and I'm thinking about where to run, because if this is a bit of a long ball game, you know you're going to get caught out. And then there's this knock on the door. This guy came in. He said, "Mr. Hackett, I'd like to run you the line." And I thought, wow, what a great thing, and I'm really quite relieved. Fine. He said, "I've just qualified as a referee." Fantastic, son. "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Listen, stand at the far end, bottom half, that'll keep you busy, offsides, everything." And in the first opening minutes of the game, he gets the odd offside. I think Alan was squeezing out, getting caught, catching the opposition out. And he's given the flag. I've checked him a couple of times, so I'm confident I've got someone who's going to do me a job, and it's going to make life easier. And then, for some unknown reason, the game's in midfield, and this guy starts flagging. And I ignored it first, thinking, I wonder why he's flagging. And then, eventually, I have to stop the play. Of course, from the Hallam defence, is what are you stopping the play for? You know, the odd comment, what's going off? And you never admit, I don't know. So I walked towards the linesman, no communication kids, of course. I said to him, and just as I got to him, he said, "What you stopped the game for?" I thought, "You're flagging." "Well, I'm not flagging for an offside." I go, "Well, why are you flagging?" He said, "My mate's just come in on the top door, and I just want him to know that I'm running the line." So it was that burst of laughter. So, yeah, one of the many experiences that
Great
you had.
story. And that starting experience you had when you refereed in the old First Division, and as you did eventually, and at Wembley in an FA Cup final.
Yeah.
But the formative experiences are very important and very strong, aren't they, that you had. And I know that even after you became a top referee, you will constantly go back to games at grassroots level.
If anybody at that time didn't say that the games in Sheffield, Sunday morning, and throughout the Sheffield region were not challenging. And this is why I think this city produced referees of reasonable quality. It always had this flow, you know, Jim Finney, George McCabe in the past, Roy Harper. So it had this continuity of providing referees to the Football League. And there was a camaraderie and a competition in there. So it was a very competitive atmosphere. But I got huge sort of, you know, if you like, respect from the players because they knew that I was going to treat every game as a cup final.
Yeah.
They didn't always agree with my decisions.
Regardless of where your career was and it taking you higher.
But it learned you how to...
Is it more challenging? We're in South Yorkshire, it's a working class community, it can be quite harsh at times, what can go on a football pitch, and you must have had some hair-raising experiences. Is that... It's driving some referees away if they get abused, but can it also work the other way, that it hones them, they become tougher, and it benefits them long term?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're out on the pitch and you've got one man and his dog shouting comments towards your referee, you're going to hear. If you're in the middle of 120,000 saying at Azteca Stadium, it's oohs and ahs. You don't hear anything individual comment. But part of refereeing and part of that experience, you know, you used to come here, and under the old setup there were steps down, and most people didn't walk anywhere in the ground to watch. They'd stood on those steps, and of course top end, if you got caught out with offside, then they'd tell you. So I think those sort of comments were challenges to me to try and get everything right. It didn't always happen. But let me make it clear as well that I was officiating in a professional game, but coming into parks in Sheffield and seeing better players. My opinion, and I would stick to that opinion today, there were players playing in the Sheffield area that were quality but hadn't had the breaks that others had. I mean, I don't know why that is. They might have matured at a later age, but there was some terrific players. You know, I mean, there was Pete Ellis here, and he was a hell of a player. You know, running sort of diagonal runs and having control of the ball, capable of hitting it. So, you know.
But of course, you got to referee the absolute greats. I mean, who really stands out for you among the players that you refereed?
Well, I mean, I don't like to single one out. I mean, I always say Kenny Dalglish, and the reason I liked Dalglish was the fact that he was a 90-minute player and would give you a bit of stick if you know things weren't running right, and that was a challenge.
Could you understand him?
You could under the pressure, but he was a true pro. And then, you know, I can remember running alongside George Best, and it was awful weather, and it was a muddy pitch. And, you know, we'd all seen Best score that goal, knocking it over a muddy pitch. And I was on the same field as him. Maradona, Beckenbauer, Platini. Platini had this terrific ball control and deft touch. And, hey, I've got a seat in the stadium. I'm actually alongside him.
You're alongside him.
I'm not playing.
Now, that's obviously pinch yourself every time in the company of those players. Does that ever make you freeze as a referee and think, what am I doing here? I shouldn't be here.
No, I think I think you just pinch yourself saying, how lucky am I? Because ultimately, you know, okay, I'll refer back to Hallam. When I came here, the secretary of the club had to mark me out of 10, and the opposition did. So ultimately, my rise to the professional level was because of junior football in Sheffield. They marked me, and it was on that progression of the marks that you received that you went up the ladder. It wasn't any nod, wink, and oh, you know him and all that sort of nonsense. It was actually on performance. So that's why every game was a cup final.
And you went on, well, to the cup final, most memorably of all. That's got to stand out above everything. Not just one cup final either. You refereed it twice. 1981?
Well, in fact, I had three. I refereed two and run the line in one, and obviously in '79. I mean, in 1979, I had Liverpool against Arsenal, and at Hillsborough. And as a kid,
I interviewed you in the dressing room before the game.
Correct.
I remember it, yes.
Well, what you probably didn't realise at the time was that, you know, I was born and bred in Parkway Springs, so my father was a steel worker, and as a guy coming out of school, I had to go in the steelworks, but my dad said, you're not going to be in the rolling mills, you're going to be in the drawing office. And I spent my life, well, part of my life in there. But when I got that semi-final, I actually drove my car to Parkway Springs, parked the car, and got my bag out and walked to Hillsborough. People weren't aware of that. But I just took the path you know, down by the side of the River Don, over the bridge, past Alderton Stadium, walking. And of course, some people were Sheffield people watching, and they're going, "What are you doing?" I'm going to the match like you are. And so, in that sense, you know, when the guy came in from the FA and said, what's your fee and expenses? And I said, no. Pardon? I don't want anything. I'm just really honoured to be refereeing on Hillsborough.
So you got nothing for refereeing an FA Cup semi-final?
I didn't take a fee.
You refused the fee?
I just said I didn't want one. I just was happy. You know, and then, I mean, for the cup final, in 80...
What was the fee for the semi-final? Just tell me.
We got about £30, £35.
Right, okay, it was a
so
bit more...
fee.
Yeah, significant money perhaps in those days. You refused that?
Yeah, I said I didn't want anything. They go, why? I said, I'm just honoured to be refereeing here.
Okay.
And then
you'd have
first
played them.
final. Well, I mean, it's like everything else, isn't it? If you know, it's like tradition, and if you uphold those traditions and that.
Did you refuse a fee for the FA Cup final then in '81?
Well, the FA Cup final was different. What happened at the FA Cup final was before the start of the game, they asked you if you want a medal or a fee. So my choice, it was no choice, was it?
No.
It was like 35 quid and the medal. So you go, fine. And of course then the first game was a draw, 1-1. And the first thoughts were, as I walk up the tunnel to be introduced, up the steps to be introduced to Queen's mother, wasn't it? Queen's mother. I've thought, am I going to get the replay? Because this was like the first replay in Yonks, and I think it was the first replay at Wembley anyway.
Manchester City Spurs.
Yeah. And I didn't get the medal, so I knew then I was going to get the replay. I had a good idea I was going to get the replay. Right. And so what happened was, in the second match, the guy came in and said, well, what we're going to do is, and feel really honoured, we're going to give you a 35 quid match fee for the game on Thursday night and the medal for the Saturday game.
You got both.
So we got both, yeah.
I mean, honestly, how draconian that now seems. That you can either have a fee or a medal. But
I think what was amazing was, as I stepped out of Wembley on the Thursday night, a spectator came up to me and said, I'll give you £5,000 for your medal. Which was, if you put it in
just
that terms,
gives you an idea of...
You then went, wow.
Where? Okay, I'm assuming you declined.
Oh, absolutely.
So where's that medal today?
It's somewhere at home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit worn because I used to get kids knocking on the door saying, "Can I have a look at your medal?" I mean, that was then the power of the Star newspaper and the local thing. And I used to say, yeah, and
of course, it was one of the all-time great FA Cup finals in terms of the replay, wasn't it? Yeah. And the Ricky Villa goal, which is a wonderful goal. That's
it just stirs the memory, because I can remember around that time this little lad coming to our back door and saying, "Are you the referee?" And I want your autograph. And I sort of, he got no paper, so I go and get his sheet of paper, and he goes, "Can you do me another one?" And I do another one. "Can you do me another one?" I've done another one. I said, "How many you want?" He's just done me a few. And then I bumped into the local school teacher who said, "Excuse me, Mr. Hackett, can you stop doing these signatures?" And I go, "Why?" He said, "We've got a little lad who's obviously got several. He's been selling them in the school." And I went, "I'm doing some more." I thought that was quite good.
How enterprising.
Yeah.
Keith's wonderful memories. On a future occasion, we'll talk about your management then of professional referees, or the professionalisation of referees. But some great stuff there, Keith. Great to talk to you as ever. Cheers.
Pleasure. Thanks.